At the end of 2024, BUL Armory updated my summer carry. I had been carrying the SAS2 Ultralight, and then they released the new UL Ultralight, which I have swapped to and have since begun carrying as things have warmed up. I love this thing, especially with a full mag of Liberty Civil Defense 50 grain plus P. Is so lightweight and provides more capacity and easier carry than what I had previously been carrying. In the box, we have the new Ultralight Pro coming out in the second quarter of 2025. Tabletop review and field strip coming up next on As I open the box, a little bit of background. The Ultralight series used to have a fluted barrel as well as some other kind of cool style touches, which they then updated to a simpler setup that has a little bit increased longevity and reliability. Now, why would you want longevity in a super lightweight 3 1/4 inch double stack 9mm? Well, because it's fun to shoot. This thing is my personal carry. You see, it's got a little bit of holster wear. This is the holster I've been using. Very comfortable for summertime, but I'm not afraid to pull it out and run drills with it in practice. And to me, that is one of the most important things for a carry gun, is it needs to be something you're comfortable shooting and will spend time with. There have been a lot of compromises, especially through the micro-compact trend of going for smaller and lighter and smaller and lighter. And it gets to the point where really you start sacrificing shootability in the name of a little more comfort and concealability. And while I understand the reasoning for that, if you don't train with it, you're not going to be good with it. And even worse, if you train with something else, every shot you fire with a different gun is somewhat untraining your knowledge and ability to run your carry gun. So for me, when I first reviewed the SAS2 Ultralight 3 1/4, the previous version of this, pulling it out of the box, feeling how light it was, seeing how small it was, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be snappy, this isn't going to be a lot of fun. I said that on video, and then as you saw in my first shots, I was wildly impressed. It became my summer carry. Then I moved on to this one for the upgrades that came with it. More on those upgrades when we get into this box. And this pouch slash range bag is a pretty complete setup, which is very nice. We have an outer shallow zippered pocket that goes fairly deep for any documentation type stuff that you need to do. But inside you can see we've got 6 mag slots up top, a nice divider to keep those mags from beating up your gun, the gun, bag, and get this stuff out of the way. These Velcro straps to be able to strap down 2 guns, possibly, if you want to fit in here, to keep them from moving around. A nice high quality durable chamber flag, something that you can use over and over again if you're at a range that requires that. And we're getting a total of 3 magazines, a BUL Armory logoed federally mandated lock, and this zippered pouch. I love these zippered pouches because it's not just a bag, it's a reusable bag. I've actually used them going to training courses, bringing extra stuff with me. We've got the owner's manual, some decals, the rear sight. That's right, the rear sight's not mounted on this gun out of the box in case you want to be an optics guy. And then the cleaning kit, which is an actual metal rod and brushes, as well as an optics mounting plate using the new BAO system, and some BUL Armory patches, which is very nice, and the little tiny wrench you need to adjust stuff. We also have the magwell, and this magwell is a new thing added recently. I've not been carrying the one on mine, but you notice that it comes forward to function as a finger scoop or grip, but it does not stick out too much past the rear of the gun. That is ideal for carry. This is made out of aluminum. It's got a little bit of flair to it. I like these to scoop under the pinky finger and help add grip, especially if you're going to be running an optic. Typically, optic errors are a vertical alignment thing. They can be fixed by squeezing or relaxing the firing hand pinky, and these serve well for it. For me, my hands fit on the gun just right as is, so I don't want to mess with it. We have an additional mainspring housing pin because obviously you need a longer pin when you're going to run a magwell. So nice that that is already included as something that is typically an expensive upgrade. A brief mention about the BAO optic system, and yeah, this looks weird with nothing on the back end. You see the extra steel removed, this cut down to lower things. That lowers your optic, but also reduces the slide mass, which is part of the trick of this gun. But back onto the BAO optic system, you notice that hole there, and this plate has a mound in the center of it. That engages and locks on, and what that mound and hole are doing is taking all of the shear force off of the screws. Typically on optics, and the problem with the way that we currently mount optics is we have screws going down. Screws are designed for clamping, not for taking shear force. That's forces side to side. So as the slide reciprocates and it goes back and forth, we're putting that side shear force on screws that were never designed, and screws as a fastener are not designed for taking shear forces. Plus, if you drop it or bump it. But when the screws are passing through this plate, which is locked in place, see it's not moving left to right, forward or back, because of that post, those forces are relieved from the screws, which means your screws are probably going to last longer, which means you'll have a better time running an optic on that. While I'm here, and a reason why it comes unmounted, you notice we have a blacked out rear sight versus the green fiber optic we typically get on a BUL Armory. That's because what sets the Pro model apart is the V6 porting. We have 3 small port windows, port holes through the barrel coming out of this window in the slide on either side. And if you've got a fiber optic there, it's probably going to get toasted. So remember, 9mm is intended for a 4-inch barrel, so when we come shorter than that, we often run into the chance that the powder hasn't had complete combustion yet. So when you've got ports on a sub 4-inch barrel, or any ports sooner than 4 inches, there's a pretty good chance there will be flame coming out of those, which is why it's important they're off to the side to not obscure or distract from your sight picture. But you do run the risk of toasting a fiber optic tube. So this is set up for an optic. In fact, I might break my own protocol and actually run this review with an optic mount mounted out of the box. Not sure how I feel about that yet. Still going to decide. Let me wipe this shipping oil off of the gun so we get a better look at it. And this is the included rear sight. You can see it is adjustable for both height and windage. This is what I've been using on my current carry setup. But as I'm not personally a proponent of ported guns for carry, I think I might throw a dot on this thing and have it be my fun range surprise, since it's obviously smaller than what most people are expecting. Speaking of size, one of the things you should know about BUL Armory is, though it is a double stack 1911, the magazines are more advanced than what you'd see in Staccato, giving you 1 more round of capacity. This is a 16-round magazine, making this a 17-round gun in total. That also means they're not compatible with the Staccato magazines. However, I think if you take a look, you'll find that the BUL Armory magazine pricing is a bit better than most of your standard double stack 1911 mags. Now look at the manual and notes from it. I do this in every video for a couple of reasons. One, the manual shows us how much the manufacturer wants us, the consumers, to understand the product. 2, it shows the YouTube overlords that when I field strip this, I'm not doing any gunsmithing or crazy modifications. I'm doing basic end user level safety checks and looking at the build of the gun. And 3, with 1911s, that I'm field stripping it the way the manufacturer suggests, because, surprise, surprise, there's more than one way to get a 1911 apart and back together. And no matter which method I do, I inevitably get someone telling me it's the wrong way. So I'm going to show you what the manual shows, and I'm going to duplicate that. This particular manual is rather slim, a little light, and simple, just to the point. However, I would argue that most BUL Armory guns, at least like this, are not first-timer guns, so there's probably some assumption that you've got some basic end-user level knowledge. As far as field stripping, this is a full-length one-piece guide rod, so we'll be using that tiny Allen key that came with it. You can also use a custom GBGuns part. I don't know where mine went, but it's a paperclip. You can shove a paperclip in there. Sometimes that's an easier way to do it, but we're going to lock that, then remove the slide. I'll show you that in a moment here when we get to the field strip. Now on to fit, finish, and features. If you were familiar with the older ultralight models, you notice that we now have black pieces instead of silver accents on there, making this a little sleeker. We also have a new slide design with some deeper serrations that are a little bit easier to grab onto. If you're curious about seeing these differences, check out my original ultralight video in which I compared it to the old SAS2 UL, which was the nomenclature for that. We also have more aggressive grip texture. This is the grip texture that's on the fuller sized guns. We've got a bit of a bob on the tail. We definitely have a bobbed hammer to give you a look at that hammer there. I have mixed feelings about this. Does it reduce some weight? Yes, likely. Is it reduced snag? Not really, because I carry cocked and locked as a 1911 should be, so really it's still the same thing sticking out. Slight changes to some textures here and there, but you can catch all of that in that tabletop comparison. And there's our V6 porting. More on that in a bit. Starting up front, you can see our BUL barrel. That is a bushingless system, nice thick barrel that does of course taper down for weight reduction, but no need for a bushing on this, as well as our full length guide rod is sticking out there. Slide to frame is very tight. That's something that I know a lot of 1911 guys love. As a practical shooter and reviewer of now 500 or so handguns, I say that slide to frame fitment is not as important as your barrel lockup, and that barrel is not moving at all. There's not a lot of room for leverage between the lockup between slide and barrel hood, the lockup inside, and the bushing. So this is a very solid gun. What that means is you're probably going to get a lot of repeatable accuracy. We have rail slots underneath. They give us 3 filling out the rail, although I don't think anything will fit in this shortest spot here. Maybe one of those deals where you've got the lug in the rear for a longer light, but that allows you to attach accessories. We have texture on the front of the trigger guard for those that like the, I guess you could say, more European way of gripping by putting the support finger up front there. Double undercut trigger guard, which I like, especially this high radius here. That allows me to get my whole hand on an otherwise a small gun, and then the second cut allows the support hand to get up good and high as well. You notice I almost instinctually at this part, after so many rounds through BUL Armories, dig my thumb into that accessory rail spot. That's where I get my purchase for my support thumb. So there's not a lot of room here for any other type of support thumb grip. We've got check ring on the front and back strap, or front strap and mainspring housing, if you will, that applies traction in all directions as it should. A nice little toe on the bottom of the stock, which scoops the hand in like a magwell would on other guns. This is why I haven't personally needed the magwell on my carry gun. Underneath, you can see we've got nice generous beveling to aid with reloads. However, of course, with a double stack single feed, your magazine is an inverse magwell, so one's not necessarily needed. I nearly forgot one of our classics. With the slide lock to the rear and an empty magazine, are we getting magazine ejection or release? And you can see we've got a little bit of ejection there. It's kicking a little bit, but the metal bodied magazine and polymer stock makes for less friction, so they slide out very easily. Coming around the back, slide to frame fit, a little bit of play. Again, that play can aid in reliability and getting through dirt. Tightness is not necessary there. Coming around the right side of the gun, you can see we have an ambi safety. It is nice and a positive click. And as far as torsion and twisting between the two, I'm getting none. It's very tightly fitted, very nicely done. This, folks, is a premium gun. They are less expensive than some of the other brands out there, but not cutting any corners on quality as far as I can tell. Since we're here, let's do some trigger talk. Everyone's always curious about these, and these are always fun to do. Our pre-travel is light, a little bit of spring load on it, taking us to the wall. Very clean break. Weight, appropriate for carry on the lighter side, but not like race gun light. Forward to the click, that takes us right back to the wall. And that's how, with BUL Armories, I've been able to reliably have splits to the .14s, sometimes down to .13. That's while keeping it in center mass on a torso at 7 yards. I could probably go faster if I wasn't just aiming, but I do believe in responsible shooting, so I try to make sure I can still land my hits. Now that we've seen the outside of the gun, let's field strip it and take a look inside the gun. Now, this is one of the trickier parts of a full-length guide rod, but full-length guide rod is what people want. We're going to take that little, looks like an Allen key, little tool. Remember, you can also use a paper clip. Just remember that the paper clips wear out and break eventually. Lock the slide to the rear and locate the hole, which is down in here on this guide rod at a perfect 90 degrees. That's going to be a little tricky, and we're going to feed that tool in there. find an angle that's going to get this in. This might take a little bit of fidgeting off camera. This is why the paperclip is easier for me, because the paperclip can flex a little, but I appreciate that BUL Armory included something maybe from the other side. Even though it's still 90 degrees, you know how it is sometimes. Just trying a different angle makes it easier. Yeah, I'm going to find my paperclip. We found it. Returning to the camera is the signature limited edition GBGuns paperclip. As I was saying earlier, what I like about this is it's a little bit flexible, and so you can see how easy that was. Just fit it in there. Just remember that paperclips are made of really cheap metal, and they will break eventually, and you don't want those pieces breaking off and getting stuck in the gun. So you got to be a little more gentle with it. But now with that there, we can ease the slide forward, and that's keeping all of the force of that recoil assembly locked in place. We're going to come back to the window being over the slide release lever, push from the other side, and pull it out like a standard 1911. If we need a little more push, there we go. Get that out, and now we can take the slide off the top. Typical. I took it off camera to see what the bind was, and then the slide just went forward on me. So that's probably that tighter slide to frame fit. Now we can take a look at our frame. You can see the construction there. Nice steel inserted inside of the part aluminum or polymer. I believe it's all polymer. Let me tap on it with something. Correction, aluminum. Sorry about that, guys. Right there is an aluminum frame and then a polymer grip module on it. Just this black is so perfect that it looks almost like a polymer, doesn't it? Now we have our spring captured, which makes it easy to remove. I'm going to slide this out the back if I can. Man, everything is fitting very tightly. There we go. Again, maneuvering our custom paperclip so that it stays out of the way or can flex in the direction it needs to get this piece out. And this might take a little bit of off-camera arguing. I know I don't typically do a lot of this off-camera, however, I don't think many of you realize that I'm filming with all of this a couple feet in front of me, looking forward at a camera that's pointed down, viewing things through the viewfinder, which is a bit challenging and means that when you need to have strength with control, like holding something closer to your body, it's not a good application for that. And we're out. My solution was to remove the end screw, which is Loctited, from the guide rod. While the guide rod passes through this bushing piece easily, it does not when you have to take it at the angle it is needed to pull out of here. Everything is very, very tight fit. So just keep that in mind. Might want to keep a Torx bit on hand if you need to do something like that or run things the way you want to. We're going to knock our link forward to bring our barrel all the way out. And now we can take a look inside the slide. Very clean, and you can see this does not have the 80s series, as it's called, safety in it. This is a 70s series gun. Now we can take a look at our barrel and see our V6 porting there, as well as our feed ramp. A little bit of dirt there from the test. We'll see how the chamber fitment is. For chamber fit, I use a piece of Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. This is also what I carry in the 3 1/4 inch. I'm going to drop it in and listen for a plunk, like that. Grab the base of it, see if it rotates freely. That's how we check for burrs. You can see that it rotates freely, and then take a look, camera, participate. Maybe a little too much zoom. See if anything beyond the shoulder is protruding, and it's not, and that is great. For a fully supported chamber, that keeps the forces going out the barrel instead of into your hand if there's a case rupture. It's also great if you're, say, having a shorter than 4-inch barrel and you want to use plus P ammunition to make sure you have full-size gun energy. Now I'll reassemble this by reversing the disassembly process, minus the, well, I'll show you the extra step of using a little Torx bit and some Loctite on that guide rod, because you don't want to lose those parts. And I'll tell you about what you'll see in the range video. You will see my absolute first shots through the gun. That's right. Having not fired it before, how does it how does it feel from the first shots. That's part of my process. We'll do full magazine plus one, see how these magazines run fully stuffed, though they are the same magazines that I've already proven twice with the other ultralight models. Then take it to our trademark What's for Dinner table and see what the gun eats, running 10 different additional loads to the in the gun before taking it to our spinner for sights and trigger control. Then 5 shots from 7 yards for practical accuracy, and finishing with my concluding thoughts. For full specs, pricing, where to find one of these, all of that kind of stuff, of course, head on over to the place that shall not be mentioned. Those of you that have been with us since before YouTube prohibited me from speaking about a place that I pay to host safe information because of all of YouTube's censorship. You guys know where that is. The rest of you, if you just give GBGuns a Google search, I'm sure you'll find it. And while I hate to support YouTube's parent company, I think it's extra funny that on Google all this information is available. YouTube doesn't want it available, even though Google owns YouTube. So whatever, find a different browser if you can. But if you give GBGuns a search, you'll be able to find the full specs, as well as our close-up photos and things like that to have a better, get a better look at this thing. And my deeper thoughts after having spent a day with it. I think I'm going to throw an optic on this. Why not? Let's do things a little bit different. Thank you guys for 10 years of support. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
GBGuns, and I do to level. Derek S, Junior Joseph T, Al Jupiter Ray, Tom Sky King, Brian P. Rich, Moises S. Fast Eddie, Tallow Twoo 15, Marvin T, David F. Donald H, Jenna I. Greg K. Thanks for the tip level. BRB2, Christopher J, David P, Andrew B, Court Lee H, JS Farhan N, Gryphos Michael W, David G, Robert B, Ohio Cruffler, Briscoe County John, Brian K, Red Sky, Waha, Edward Z, Alan B, Fierce 76, Tattoo Johnny, Uncle Munzie, Miss Doodle Punk, Mount Stewart E, Justin H, Summer G, keeping things on its level. Gary B, Brad M, George H, Daniel D, Othniel M, Gold, Adrian H, Mark S, Edit P, Gary C, J.E. Logan G, RBMB 2022, A, Gil B, Ronzi Mike, NC Technocon, Half Empty, Ronald W, Russ P, GPC 1986, Robert C, Michael L.